We can go live here. Copy this. Gonna make it only my face right now. Let's lower this a little bit. That looks better. Okay. Now we can do a Gmail.
From ACI Seminars.
That's already set up, Dad. That's all just ready. This is for me to make sure all the audio is good. Somebody just sent you an email about it. I'll forward that to my own email. In a second, actually. Let's just... Hello. Okay. Now we can do a Gmail.
From ACI Seminars.
That's already set up, Dad. Okay, cool. Looks all fine. All perfect and dandy. I'm going to quickly... Okay, wait, let's try this one more time. Warning, please check the video resolution. It's fine, we're gonna stick to this resolution. Okay, we're just about ready. You're gonna take a seat. We are live streaming right now, but nobody's watching because they haven't received the link yet. Okay.
Can you kick this sheet in?
I don't know what you need.
This fucking thing. There we are. Okay, perfect. So why is this here?
That's your microphone to talk into. Put it wherever you like. Technically, we're live streaming.
Right now?
Just getting ready to send the link out to everybody. It'll be in a couple seconds. Let me copy this email. Let me go to inbox again. Okay, I sent it out.
So I can go to Face now?
Yeah, we're gonna see people jumping in. I'll let you know where they are, how everything's going. There we go, it's live. We have one person watching, which is me, and we'll see as everybody jumps in, okay? People are coming in here. That's good news. They got the email. Yep. It's a little bit delayed, unfortunately, but it looks pretty good. Yep, you can say something. Say hello.
Welcome, everybody. Hopefully, after a couple hours today, you will all be making at least another $10,000 a year. Now, the opportunity is boundless when you learn detention, which is quite simple. All you got to do is create an alternative to detention to get your client out, and everything will be fine. What we're going to do is we're going to show you a whole bunch of documents that we can explain to you everything about what you need to know. You can also send us... Hello. Hi, Vicky. Okay. I can read the text when you send a question. So we're going to start with the first situation, which is somebody picks up the phone and calls you and says, I got a friend in detention. First thing you need to do is to act confident. Who is the person? What's their family name? Do they have any other name? And what you do is you get their name and find out who could be the bondsperson. If the person detained has been living with a spouse, that spouse knew the person was out of status, so therefore that spouse cannot be the bondsperson. Okay? So, the first thing that you do, the most important thing that you do, is once you get their contact information, get the money. Get the money. Have them send you an email transfer. Now, most email transfers can take anywhere from 1 minute to 15 minutes to come through in your account. What you need to do is find out where the person is detained. 50% of the detainees in this country are put in jail. But Montreal and Toronto have large immigration holding centers. Vancouver's getting one. They have a little one at the airport right now, but not much. So basically, most of the people in this country who get detained will be on video cam from the jail. Okay? They won't be brought into an immigration division office. Okay? In Toronto, the immigration division is located at 385 Rexdale Boulevard. Now, the first thing that you need to do, according to ICCRC, is to get the guy who's detained to sign a retainer. If the person's in jail, that's virtually impossible because the jail's not going to want you going in there after hours to get one little stupid piece of paper signed. So what you can do is when you do the detention review in the jail or the correctional center, take in one form and just tell the guy, sign here. I'm here to represent you. So-and-so sent me or whatever. They'll know who sent you. Okay, so here's the situation. If the person's in the holding center, you need to move really fast. Minutes count, because if the enforcement detention officer working in the holding center offers a bond release to the guy on terms and conditions, as long as he surrenders his passport and reports once a week to the removals unit or CBSA, you're going to lose that money. So you don't want to lose the money. So basically get out to the immigration holding center as quickly as possible. Fill in page 2 of your IMM 5476 and get the information from him. He'll come down from his room with his papers that CBSA has given him, and on there will be his UCI number, his complete name, and date of birth. So then you fill that in on the 5476 and you've got it. Now, if you think you can pick up the phone and call CBSA, you're wrong. This is the basic numbers in the Toronto area for the Immigration Division, CBSA, 6900 Airport Road, entrance 93, where they do the bond reporting, but the Immigration Holding Center is the most important number, okay? The 416-401-8508 or 8509 is the number to find out what room the guy is in and whether they have him in the holding center. A lot of people won't know where the guy is being detained. And it all depends on how quickly they get a hold of you. So if they get a hold of you 5 minutes after the person's been arrested, they haven't got him into a facility yet. So you're going to need to wait. But if it was yesterday that the guy got arrested, you need to move real fast, okay? Because if he came in late at night, by the next morning, someone's going to be looking at this file. They may do a minister's delegate review right away without you. And then what happens is they order the person removed already. They're in control. They don't want to deal with you. The enforcement detention officers at Rexdale Boulevard, 385 Rexdale Boulevard, don't want a representative taking away that detainee. They'll do anything, any excuse politely that they can use not to give you any information. You don't have a 5476 signed. We don't have it yet. We can't talk to you. The same thing will happen at 6900 Airport Road when you call them. They won't give you the information. They won't help you get your client released. They don't want to get your client released because their friends or fellow officers actually had to go hunting for your guy. So, one of the key things is deal with the Immigration Holding Center numbers. You call those numbers, that's the admissions and discharge area, and the security guard will know whether they had a new admit, okay? And they will inform you what room the guy's in, okay? So you can then leave a message for the guy to call you back. As soon as he calls you back, you're on the way out to see him at the Immigration Holding Center, where you're going to get a 5476 signed by him and a retainer agreement to appease ICCRC. Now, the next issue is the rules for detention reviews. This is the rules from the Immigration Division. Now, see the one in red? The CBSA officer, sooner or later, one of your own clients will be arrested. And the client will say, I want to talk to my immigration consultant, I want to talk to my counsel. And you are a counsel. You're not an RCIC. Okay? You can call yourself an RCIC. But under the adjudication rules, anybody who represents a client, including a ghost, is a counsel. Including an uncle, including an aunt, including a sister, their counsel. When you go before a member of the Immigration Division, the Immigration Appeal Division, or the IRB, your counsel. That's all you are. Everyone is counsel, not RCIC. So most of the people that work for the IRB don't even recognize this phrase RCIC. Now, the issue here is the person's name, sex, date of birth, whether the person is single, married, whatever, etc., etc., etc. The language, English, French, everything. Now, the person has counsel, the counsel's contact information. That is what the CBSA officer, the arresting officer, is supposed to inform the Immigration Division. They never do. I have not heard of one consultant or lawyer that when the client said, my lawyer's name is Booga Booga, that they informed the Immigration Division of who the counsel was. Now, here's the situation. How much should you charge? Now, if the person gets an offer of release for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 cash, they'll have that in 2 minutes. The bonds people will. So you're in business. Never charge under $1,000. If you have to travel at all, $1,500. If you have to travel far, more. So the furthest I've ever traveled for detention review is in Napanee, Ontario, at the jail, the Quinte Detention Center, and it takes a couple hours to drive down there. So $5,000, and you get it. You will get it because nobody else is going to go there. Okay? It's going to take a whole day. So $5,000 is the minimum. What do you think a normal bond would be? Normal bonds are $4,000 or $5,000 cash and another $4,000 or $5,000 performance bond, which is a promise to pay. The promise to pay, you're going to have to show that they have equity in real property that they can come after, that the person has sufficient funds that the government can after them and get their money. If the government can't get their money, then why are they releasing the guy? you will never get somebody released to a foreigner. An American cannot bond somebody out because the American has no right to stay here while this person goes through the whole process. So there is a lot to deal with detention yet. We're going to go to a new item. And these are detention reviews the procedure. Now, it all starts with a phone call. You need to get this information. The place of the detention will be where it could be correctional center outside of the GTA. This is the numbers for Vancouver. These are the numbers for Montreal. And Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton are numbers that you can get and save these numbers so that if you get a client, a potential client, somebody calling you, a relative calling you saying, hey, my friend's detained, can you help? The answer is yes. Okay, yes, where is he? Blah, 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 blah. And who could be the bondsperson? Okay, the bondsperson is the key. Because the bondsperson will state that they trust this guy or this girl, and they're willing to put up their hard-earned money to get him released and make sure that he reports whenever he's asked to report and for removal if so ordered, and that they would take him to the airport. These are all the numbers that you need. It's really simple. First thing you do is you get prepared with the bondsperson. Now, the next item we're going to talk about is the reasons for detention. There's 3 reasons: danger to the public, identity, and unlikely to appear. It's real simple. If the guy has several assault charges, he's a danger to the public. If he's been charged with rape, he's a danger to the public. Just charged. Okay? So they're going to lock him up and claim that he's a danger to the public. You're going to have to argue that he's innocent until proven guilty. Well, with immigration, you're guilty until you prove you're innocent. Now, unlikely to appear. That could be anything. They could have sent him a letter by regular mail, and he didn't get it. And if he didn't get it, then he didn't appear, so he's unlikely to appear. Or he says, I don't want to go home, and they arrest him. Now, not wanting to do something and I won't go home are 2 drastically different things. I can understand a man or a woman who has a child in Canada and says, and a husband or a spouse, I don't want to go home. But it's the way that they say it. It's the tone that is said. I don't want to go home. Then they think that you're unlikely to appear. Never allow your client to go to a CBSA interview without yourself. You can charge for CBSA interviews. That is what you should be doing. Charge every single time for absolutely everything that you're doing. Okay, so we're going to look at a detention review notice of arrest. Okay? This is a notice of arrest of one of my clients. Okay? So we scroll down to the bottom here. And these are the reasons why he's arrested. Is not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident of Canada. Entered Canada such and such a date and made a refugee claim at Lester Pearson International Airport. Was refused his refugee claim at a particular date. Applied for judicial review, which was denied. Has applied for a pre-removal risk assessment, which was refused on such and such a date, was given a negative prior on October 26, was given a direction to report for removal in Toronto, failed to report for removal. A warrant for his arrest for removal was filed to report on 16th of July 2016. Has eluded CBSA on a valid warrant for arrest for removal since 16th of July 2016. Was arrested with warrant by Ontario Provincial Police on the side of the highway 401 on a traffic stop near Brighton, Ontario, and was transported to the Quinte Detention Center. Continued detention recommended. You got that? Okay. So now we're going to tell you the true story. Okay? Here's a guy who comes to Canada, starts making a lot of money, hasn't really finished high school, and he's making money hand over fist as a roofer shingler. And then he meets this woman, and they start dating, and they're having a good time together, and he's too shy to say, "Will you marry me? Will you marry me? Will you marry me?" He won't say it. And he says it about a week before they tell him to get on the plane. So then what happens is this guy, what he does, she takes her time to say yes. She takes 3 months. Then she wants relatives to attend the wedding, and that takes another 6 months. By that time, he's out of status. And she's his ticket to stay in Canada. Well, guess what? They get married. They are truly in love. Everything's fine. We submit the application. 4 months after we submit the application, he hits a car at a red light. Bumps the car. So the lady takes her car into the place where you take your car for the accident report, and she says, "This is the guy that hit me, but it's not his car." So they call the owner of the car, his wife, and demand that they both come into the vehicle reporting location. And when they do, everything's fine, and he leaves. My advice to him was, don't drive ever again. Don't drive ever again. So just before Christmas, this guy goes down towards Kingston, Ontario, in a blizzard, and rolls his car 4 times with his stepson in the car. Almost kills the kid. Cops come. They run his name. They've got a warrant. They arrest him. They throw him in jail. Now, I needed to get him out of detention. So, here's his information. Okay, this is basically what happened. But my question to you, which I want you to text me, is what characteristics should a potential bondsperson possess for this guy? Get on your keyboards and answer the question. I can only talk for so long until I bore myself. I'm waiting for an answer. What type of bondsperson do you think that you should have? Is everybody still on?
Yes.
Where's my answer? Oh, shy people. You're all good enough to answer this question. You really are. Here's the answer. You need to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. You need to have known the detainee for a considerable amount of time. You see the detainee on a regular basis. You were not aware of his detainee's immigration status. So a lot of people who are in the same industry, say construction, roofing, painters. Oh, we got people responding. Hang on. Trusty, real estate, owns a car. Richard Luce, thank you. I don't know who that corp is. Permanent resident citizen. Vicky, citizen, no criminality, property owner. And Anesh Ashi. Oh, I know that guy. He's from Vancouver. Should be permanent resident, Canadian citizen, but not his spouse. She is already, yeah, right. Okay, so we're going to go down the list. We got people talking. Great. Now, if aware of lack of status, they tried to get the detainee to regulate their status. For example, there's a Toronto Star article about $2.5 million seized of bogus goods. Okay? Fake magic bullets, Kardashian cream crap, etc., etc. And 2 people were arrested. One guy had been in the country for 21 years. 21 years out of status. And I offered a huge bond by his brother, but his brother said, no, I knew my brother was illegal. I knew my brother was illegal. And the member said, well, what did you do to try to regularize his status? Nothing. He's an adult. And the man was offering $40,000 to $50,000 cash as a bonds person. The member refused them. Hang on, we got another text here. Hello, Carl. Carl Marshall. Permanent resident detainee, well-used detainee ends up when required, even if it means for removal. Yes, and making sure that the person will show up even for removal. So here's the situation. I couldn't get him out, even for $50,000. Okay? Then I leave the detention review, and I knew that this detainee stuttered really bad. Like he could barely speak and get a word out. Unlike me, who never shuts up. Then his brother tells me that the detainee can't read and write. But within 2 hours of being in the Immigration Holding Center, somebody did a minister's delegate review and ordered him excluded. While the other person detained, right, she was a living caregiver who was actually at the factory of her employer. Was not working, but got accused of being working and sent to... is there any way we can fill it? We can make this larger text?
Sure. If you click on it in Control Scroll, or Control plus, you have to click on the text. Control Scroll. No. Just click on it once. Hit the Control button and plus plus.
Control plus?
Yep.
Oh, now I can see it. Okay.
And make sure you scroll down so you are caught up with the newest stuff.
Okay. So, Toby Zing, my Twitter guy, has control and influence over the person. Yes, this is all very, very important. Okay? Now, the situation then was, I said, well, why haven't you done something for him to a speech pathologist? Why haven't you hired somebody to teach him how to read and write? You make $265,000 a year and you don't help your brother who's working in a factory packing, just doing packing? So he's sort of left with a tail between his legs. But then he says, well, I have a niece here that works at the University Health Network, establishing Mount Sinai for putting people in the hospital beds and out of the hospital beds and finding out how many beds they have available and everything. And she has a little girl. So I said, great. That woman doesn't know that her uncle is illegal and visits him all the time. And her daughter is trying to teach him how to read and write. So that's who we have. So we went from $50,000 down to $2,000 cash. And we got the guy out. And the guy's still here. And that's several years ago. So now, the key here, if somebody has a house, how much equity do they have in the house? Yeah, okay, here's a good point here that I left out. Whoever Meti Trust Immigration Consulting is, no criminality. The bondsperson can't be a criminal, can't have criminality, and also couldn't have bonded somebody before that person didn't comply with the bond. So if they bonded somebody before and that person went into hiding and didn't report for removal or for hearing or anything else, they're eliminated from the whole process. So now we're going to go down here a little bit more, and we're going to hit another one. Okay, so is this the same one? Yeah. Okay, so basically here's the situation which I want to tell you now. Got me back. Here's the situation. You got the guy out of detention. Now, one of the things that you're going to recommend is that he reports to CBSA once a month, twice a month. If this guy's bad, weekly, okay? And if you're having difficulty getting him out, and he's a young guy, even recommend that he has a curfew from 11 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, they're going to say he can't work without authorization, he can't go to school without authorization, and he's got to report. Okay? So, when the people fill out the bonds paper, which I've got here somewhere, 1 second. Here's the bondsperson sheet.
You're not showing your desktop right now.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Sorry about that. So, the bondsperson must provide photo identification, proof of status in Canada, a document stating current residential address. And failure to provide those documents, you're not getting the guy out. Okay? Now, deposits can be made by bank draft, money order, or certified check. Now, this is old. You can now make the payment by credit card. Now, prepaid credit cards will not be accepted. Credit card holder must be the name of the bondsperson listed on the order release. You can't use somebody else's credit card to bond somebody out. It's got to be your money. And whatever you do, the bondsperson can't say, "Oh, sure, I'll put up the money. He'll pay me back." Doesn't work that way. Can't pay. The detainee can't pay back the bondsperson. Now, all bondsperson postings guarantee must provide documented proof of their annual income level and of current assets in order for CBSA. So what they want is a T4 slip from an employer, Canada notice of assessment, pay stubs, business license, self-employed, articles of incorporation. They want everything. Okay? So here's the thing. If the performance bond is $5,000, they're going to want to see assets of 7 times that, $35,000. $35,000. If the bond is $10,000, they want to see $70,000. Now, whoops. I don't know what I did there. Now, this goes on, okay, a little bit further down here. The bank savings statements showing the balance of the bank account for the previous 12-month period. Some enforcement detention officers can be real pricks about dragging somebody through the mud when they're putting up thousands of dollars for their friend. Okay? If your client has given anybody in the Immigration Holding Center in Toronto or Montreal a difficult time, they just ship them off to jail. Now, in the GTA, there's the Toronto East Detention Center. the Maplehurst Detention Center, and the Vanier Center for Women. The Vanier Center for Women and the Maplehurst Detention Center are in Milton at Highway 25 and 401. The other facility in Ontario is the Lindsay Super Jail. So if your client has already had 3 detention reviews and the odds of him getting out is not very high. My name is Joe Aldi. I am using a company account. Oh, okay. So, hello, Joe Aldi. Okay. So here's the situation. If somebody is in the super jail, you will go to the Immigration Division at 385 or the Holding Center at 385 Rexdale Boulevard, and they'll do it by webcam. They'll do the detention review by the webcam. So you need the bondsperson at the Immigration Division at 385. Okay? So, if your detainee is in the Toronto East Detention Center, you need to call the Immigration Division, find out what time the detention review is. It will probably be at 1 o'clock. Okay? That's because of traffic on the 401 for the members going from Mississauga to the east side of Toronto. Maplehurst Complex is normally at either 9 or 1 or both. Okay? It all depends on how many detainees they need to see there on that particular day. They normally start at 9. You're lucky to get in by 10, and they'll have several members of the Immigration Division, and you've got to go with the one that's got your client's file. Okay? You get to talk to the Minister's Counsel probably for a couple seconds before and give your spiel. You know, I've got a really good bondsperson, you know, da-da-da. You want to talk to the bondsperson right here, you know? But make sure your bondsperson knows what to say. If a bondsperson sticks their foot in their mouth and says something stupid, your client's not going to get out, because the Minister's Counsel will oppose that bondsperson based on what they said. So you need to make sure that your potential bondsperson knows what their obligations are. Okay? So if I go for a detention review in Milton for 9 o'clock, and I live in Ajax, Ontario, on the east side of Toronto, that's a long drive. So I charge a minimum of $1,500, and I try to get $2,000. If I can't get the 2, I'll set it for the 15. Okay? I will never go to the Immigration Holding Center for under $1,000. Now, there is one consultant that I know that I wanted $1,000, and they said they only had $200, and he did it for $200 on the same day that I was doing another client. And the bond was $4,000 cash and no performance. The lady opened her purse and said, I have $5,000 here. But the guy only got $200. It just doesn't make sense. If you are in business for yourself, if you don't respect yourself, potential clients won't respect you. Okay? So I want to go back to this Yulee Bally guy. Okay? Yulee Bally bondsperson, and I think I've got him here, just a second. Yeah. One second, I got to keep changing this thing back and forth. The bondsperson was a very good friend of his who owned a plumbing business. Okay? So I asked the guy, you know, bring me stuff, bring me, you know, your income tax and everything. Wow. You know, he's claiming that he made $180,000 last year. Okay, well, he's probably cheating on his tax. He probably made more. I said, do you have a house? He says, oh yeah, my house is a 4-bedroom house with a finished basement. We have 2 kids. They live upstairs, but Mr. Bally can stay in the basement by himself. There's a separate shower and toilet and everything. No problem, right? No problem. And, you know, I said, you know, how much is your house worth? He said $1.5 million, but he has $100,000 mortgage still outstanding. So, oh, you have $1,400,000 equity in your house. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and because my client had no showed for his PRAR decision, no showed for removal, no showed for this, had a warrant out for almost a year. I offered a lot of money. I said, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I said, I'm going to offer $20,000 cash and $30,000 performance. Oh, okay. Wait a second, Toby. That's a good question. Anytime you got a question, just ask it. And I asked the man, I said, wouldn't that hurt you if he absconded with this? He said, no, not really. I didn't ask him if he owned any other property. He owned 14 townhouses. Now, Toby Zhang asked a question. How long does a detention review last on average? 6 minutes. Unless they call in the bondsperson. When you go to the Immigration Holding Center in Toronto, what happens is you get there at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock. You get there with your bondsperson at 8 o'clock. That's when the Immigration Division opens. You go in, you have to show your ID to the security guard at the door, but the bonds people have to go through a metal detector. And then you go up to the window with your bondsperson, and you tell them, I'm here for so-and-so, and I've got a bondsperson, Canadian citizen, good friend. Where's the ID of that guy? You hand in the ID. They take a photocopy of that, and they attach it to what the member's going to get. No offer of money or anything. Then you go out of that area, and you come around, and you go in through the actual holding center area of the detention center, and you wait in a waiting room. And each person is called based on no schedule. Normally, they will try to get rid of the ones that need an interpreter first, so they get rid of the interpreter so that the IRB doesn't have to pay an interpreter for sitting there all day long. Then they start calling you in. As you go in, your bondsperson doesn't go in. You go in. So they say their spiel as to this DR1 document, right? And I got to switch it again. Okay? Which is down here at the bottom. They say this spiel, okay? And they're saying continued detention we're seeking continued detention because he's unlikely to appear, okay? Which is a logical solution. And then it's your turn to say, but I got an alternative to detention, okay? This guy is known by Mr. So-and-so, right? And it's the best bondsperson routine, on and on and on again, okay? So that's it. So you give your spiel, and you say, well, my client, Mr. Bally, he's married, he has a stepson who has ADHD, and, it was one problem after another problem. It's very difficult to get married in Canada when you make a refugee claim and you don't have any other identity documents, so that the province of Ontario will issue you a marriage license so that you can get a marriage certificate or even get married. Okay? It's very difficult. They're making it very difficult now in Ontario to get married. Out of status people to get married. Anybody else can. So if you're going in, you wait for them to make the pounce. And then you go on and you talk with passion how great of a bondsperson you have. And you're selling. You've got to sell that bondsperson. If you don't sell the bondsperson, if you don't believe in the bondsperson is going to control this guy, then you got a problem. Because you're not earning your money. You are up the bat and you've got to earn your money. Oh, yeah, okay. Vicky Lagoza, however you say that, does the money you are saving the government by avoiding detention costs favor in your argument? It all depends on the following factors. Do they have to get a passport? Do they have a travel document? Is the country that the person's from very difficult to get a travel document? For example, China. Now, the Huawei lady, China really doesn't like Canada much anymore, okay? So that makes a big difference. Certain Caribbean countries will take their sweet time in issuing a document. This was caused by a time when I was working in immigration, and on weekends I used to do removals. I would pick the guys up at the jail and take them on a plane back down to the Caribbean. And normally it was Jamaica, because there's a lot of Jamaican criminals here, convicted criminals. And I would take them back to Jamaica. And what happened was, one day I was given a file to take a guy back, and then the supervisor at the airport overruled me with the boss and said he was going to do it. So he was higher ranking than me, so he got the overtime. So he went to the jail, picked up these two guys, got them on a plane, flew down to Jamaica in Kingston, and when the guys walked in, the Jamaican immigration officer said, "Where are you guys from? Which parish?" And they said, "We're from Kingstown." Kingstown, St. Vincent. They took them to the wrong country on this special travel document that CIC, or immigration, was creating themselves. So it would have to be a rather lengthy detention for them to care about anything. Now, the one time that I went down to Napanee, Ontario for a detention review, I blogged about this one, and I sent in a use of representative form that the guy's friends got signed in Chinese, and I was accused of submitting a fraudulent document to CBSA. I still got in for the detention review, had him sign another one in front of the officer, and the immigration division member said I did nothing wrong. 5 months later, because they claimed he was somebody else, but they could not provide any evidence that he was somebody else, they said on the record that the FBI claims that he is Jon Snow, when actually he was Tom Frank. So they couldn't prove that he was Jon Snow. It took 5 months for them to admit that getting a travel document for somebody who's been in North America for 20 years, 17 in the United States, is extremely difficult. Okay? So I came up with a sufficient bondsperson to overcome their concerns, and the length of detention was a key factor in releasing the guy. The longer they're in detention, the more likely they are to get released if you have a quality bondsperson. If detention is going to be very short, for example, the pre-removal risk assessment, okay? If your guy's in detention, the Backlog Reduction Office in Vancouver, which does the pre-removal risk assessment applications, they'll do it really fast if the guy's in detention. If he's out of detention, it'll take 6 months for them to reply and render a decision. So the length of time in detention is extremely important. What time we got here now? Only a half an hour? Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about what happens after you get him out. Okay? After you get him out, one of the first things that they'll probably require him to do is in Toronto to report to the CBSA office at 6900 Airport Road, the International Center area. When he goes there, he will have his bond paper. He'll hand in his bond paper to the receptionist. The receptionist will take a picture of him and give him an ID card for him to bring every time he comes in. And then on a sheet of paper, we'll write the next time he's to report. If he doesn't report at that time, the bondsperson is going to lose everything. And it's up to the bondsperson to make sure that he's reporting. So the issue is each time he's got to report. So if he's late, he's got to be there first thing in the morning the following day. If he shows up 5 minutes late, they lock that door. Okay? So they open at 7:30, they close at 4 o'clock, and believe me, they close at 3:50. Sometimes 3:51, if you're lucky. Okay? They want out of there. They're government employees. They're not going to wait around. Okay? So here's the situation. The very next morning, if your client didn't show up, get him there very next morning. And when he's there very next morning, they'll leave him sitting there for about probably 1 or 2 hours, and then they'll call him into a separate room and say, why didn't you show up yesterday? What was wrong? Okay? Oh, my car ran out of gas or whatever, some good excuse or whatever that they can't question. Okay? That's the key. Now, there are many ways you can delay removal, and delaying removal can be rather lucrative. Now, for me to go to 6900 Airport Road, and my office is in Scarborough at Morningside and Shepherd, it takes me 40 minutes to maybe an hour and 20 minutes sometimes, depending on traffic. So I charge $500. Now, a lot of the new consultants are charging $3 or $2. Now, you got to respect yourself. Now, if you're going to attend an interview, you get there. Lots of times the CBSA officer doesn't call you right away when you have that appointment time. So you could be sitting there for an hour. It takes an hour to get there, an hour to get back to your office. That's 3 hours. You have to be paid what you're worth. So it doesn't matter. This is one location where you will see ghost consultants. It's the only area of the tribunal business where you will see ghost consultants. And I don't like unauthorized representatives. So wishy-washy. Call a jerk a jerk. Now, in the tribunal business, 99.9% of the business, ghost consultants can't work. Okay? So the ghost consultant claims, oh, he's my friend, I'm the interpreter, right? That's what they claim. Okay? But they are actually working, because I see the same person there all the time. Now, there is a variety store at Tobico CIC where they take photographs, and the lady that used to work there is constantly at 6900. Reason being, why pay me $500 when they can pay her $60? Money talks. Bullshit walks. Now, the odds are, when you go there, you will get your client will have a call-in notice like this, where they'll ask for certain things. Okay? So this one here is contact your relatives in China and have them courier Chinese passports, ID cards, and household register to you in Canada. Renew your children's Canadian passports. Bring your original Chinese identity documents and your children's original new passport to our next appointment. That lady's been in Canada for 10 years. Do you really think that the relatives are going to find this stuff? Not likely. If the person is a neat freak, they'll know where everything is, and they'll bring it across. But if your client can't provide some of that, that means that the removal will be delayed. Okay? And then you'll have to go again after you give an explanation why they can't find stuff. Okay? It's in storage. It's in a box. My mother's just remembered. She's going to go look for it. So then he's got to send you a new call-in notice for another 2 weeks down the road. So then you get to go back with your client again 2 weeks later. And 2 weeks. and 2 weeks becomes 4 weeks, and 4 weeks can become whatever. I've kept some people in this country for 9 years. There's a guy on my video testimonials, John Ponciano, Joao Ponciano. I kept him in the country for 9 years. 9 long years after he was ordered excluded. He never made a refugee claim. I kept him in the country for 9 years. There was things that you can do, especially if he's a witness for a criminal case. They can't remove him, especially if he's needed for that criminal case. It's because the law, the courts in this country come first. Immigration comes second. Okay, Roy, how do you delay a deportation order for a client who doesn't have a travel document? Well, all kinds of ways. Okay, let's say, for example, that's a good question. Qualcamp, however you say that. That's a very good question. For example, I just won a humanitarian compassion application that Waldman and Associates, Lauren Waldman, lost. Right? Okay, so the husband is from Greece. The wife is from the country Georgia, which is 1/3 of it is occupied by Russia, like it is in Ukraine. And what happens is the oldest daughter is Greek citizen, and the 3 younger kids are Canadian. Okay, so who gets the kid? Who gets the kids? Who gets to take the kids? So you get them fighting over custody of the kids. Okay? And they're before the courts. Okay? It's Cameron, by the way. Oh, hi. What a stupid name, Cameron. Quap quap. Well, I guess you're from Africa anyways, right? So here's the situation. I know, Cameron. Okay. Here's the situation. When this happens, okay, you can delay the removal for months and months and months and months. On the walls of my office, I have a whole bunch of newspaper articles where single mother is Canada is going to lose business because what they're trying to remove a Chinese woman who's employing 15, 20 people. For example, the picture behind me here, okay, behind my head, okay, Family Faces the Boot. They own that restaurant, which is just up the road from the Immigration Holding Center, and there's a lineup in that restaurant to get in every day, okay? So that is the main thing, okay? So you can do all kinds of things. For example, I gotta see that Chinese boy. He was born in Peru. The little girl was born in Canada. Some scumbag consultant went down to Peru and told them to come to Canada and make a refugee claim based on the one-child policy because the woman was pregnant. But they had a right to reside permanently in Peru. They owned a restaurant in Peru. His sister, okay, I gotta move. His sister, how can I get it? There we go. Yeah, his sister came to Canada, made a refugee claim, won, sponsored her parents. So the guy's parents and his only other sibling was in Canada. So that enticed them to come to Canada, make a refugee claim. But when they got to the port of entry at Niagara Falls, the guy said to them in perfect Spanish, and they spoke Spanish, don't show your passport at all, ever. Don't show your passport. Just show your Chinese national identity card, and we'll make a refugee claim. Because your wife's pregnant, and everybody knows that in those days, one-child policy is, so terrible. You can't, you want to have this baby, right? So they were sitting there, like me, drinking, the consultant was drinking a lot of Pepsi, Diet Coke. And CBSA is known for taking their sweet time. So after quite a while, the consultant had to go use the bathroom and said, where's the bathroom? I've got to use the bathroom. And the CBSA officer said, down over there a ways. That's the they're doing construction here. I apologize for that. And when he went to the bathroom, the CBSA officer sort of turned around, came back and stood behind my client, who is now a Canadian citizen, and said politely, "Show me your passport, por favor," perfect Spanish, which I can't speak. And he showed it, and in the passport showed evidence that he had a right to reside in Peru. So therefore, he had to make a refugee claim against Peru and China. Okay? Well, that's stupid. Okay? He got caught. Now, I am of the belief that the majority of refugee claimants tell pretty good fibs. But the better you are at selling your fear of persecution, the greater chance you are to become a permanent resident. Plain and simple. Now, let's get back to delaying removal. Okay. If, for example, I went with that family 3 or 4 times, and I went down to the consulate. I applied at the Visa Application Center on University Avenue for visitor visas to China. They kept refusing the family. So we were sent to the consulate. And in the consulate, I had 4 newspaper articles about this family. I thought it was totally wrong. You know, here they have 6 employees. His whole family's here. He's a businessman. He owns 2 houses already. Got more money than me. And here's the situation. Why shouldn't he be allowed to stay? So we went to the media again and again and again. Okay? Then we went to the consulate. The last time we met with the consulate person of the Chinese consulate. And that lady said, "I'm going to speak English now. I know what your problem are because it's been in the newspapers, in the Chinese newspapers and everything else. And I'm going to tell Mr. Kellogg that I have to work with CBSA. My government orders that. But I can issue a visa for the parents and the daughter, but because the son can't return to Canada, our Chinese law won't allow me to issue one for the son. Go away, Mr. Kellogg will keep you here. Goodbye." And that's what happened. Now, there are numerous ways. It all depends on each individual case how to delay removal. Don't lie for your client. Never lie for your client. Don't ever lie for your client. You can embellish their problems, but you can't lie for them. Okay? My God. Okay. I need another question, please. Okay. We're going to move on. Okay, so here's the other thing. I forgot about something. Okay. When a person gets out of detention, they normally call them in for a minister's delegate review if they haven't been ordered removed. Okay? If they've done something wrong, been convicted of a crime and they're a permanent resident, if they have appeared to be working for an employer that they're not authorized to work for, etc., they will call them in for a minister's delegate review. Cha-ching! Money. CBSA will want your client to write a letter stating why they think they should not be ordered removed, or to explain the circumstances of their violation according to CBSA. And that's what you get paid for. You need to charge for minister's delegate reviews, because if you can get rid of the problem at a minister's delegate review and it's not sent to an admissibility hearing, then your client isn't ordered removed. Richard, I charge separately for minister's delegate review. I charge separately for everything. I have been known in the past to charge too little. Okay? And I feel sorry for people. I really do. One of the things that you can charge for, we're going to get back to the Minister's Delegate Review, is a pre-removal risk assessment. The odds of winning a pre-removal risk assessment, in my opinion, is less than winning the Lotto Max. Okay? Now with their 50 numbers. So, okay, got it. Yes. Okay, I charge, okay, great, Richard. I charge about $500 for Minister's Delegate Review, especially if there's something good that you can talk about. Okay, we're going to show you one here in a second. But I want to digress. Pre-removal risk assessment, I charge $1,000. I've done probably 1,000 pre-removal risk assessment. I've won 2. One with Angelina Schuster or Angelina Carb Law, who has an office in Richmond Hill. The guy was from Belarus. They issued an Interpol warrant for his arrest the day before the Minister of Justice got arrested herself. And they were torturing people in Belarus at the time, and they still do. It's really communist. And we fought and won that, okay? Because we provided all kinds of new evidence that he was being framed and he wasn't guilty because he wasn't at the location where the crime occurred and all kinds of reasons. The second one was a client of mine named Huey Chen, H-U-I Chen. And anybody who's thinking of reporting me, it's a federal court decision where it claims Huey Chen, Roy Kellogg. You got to look it up. Okay, so here's the situation with Huey Chen. Huey Chen calls up my office and says, how much for pre-removal risk assessment? I tell her $1,000. $250 to go out the first time. $500 for the do the actual forms. And if I have to go back out, $250 at the end, but I want $750 from the time that we start filling out the forms and prior to submitting. And you're paying courier costs to Vancouver. So guess what happens? I have this lady, and she claims she's Falun Gong. She's got all kinds of pictures showing that she's Falun Gong. And I meet her at the removals unit, or 6900 Airport Road, entrance 93, blah, blah, blah. And I say to her, I said, okay, so you sent the money dropped the money off in the office yesterday. I've got the money. Now I got a question for you. When did you lose your refugee claim? And she said, July. And did you go to federal court? Yeah. When did you lose that? August. Oh, August last year or 2 years ago? No, this August. I said, this is September 5th. When in August did you lose it? August 18th. And they got the file up here and sent you a letter and called you in already? What was the reason why you lost your refugee claim? I couldn't prove that I was a Chinese national. I said, what about your parents? What about identification? No, they couldn't. And you went to federal court and that lawyer didn't get it either? No, we couldn't get anything. And then they called us in. And they asked us to fill in an application for a passport. And I looked at her and I said, go ahead, fill it in. You know, it's a typical thing. It's in Chinese. I don't know what it is. So she fills it in. 6 months later, they call us out and tell us that we lost. But in the interim, all I did was go to the Chinese consulate where she's handing out Falun Gong papers, took a picture of her, submitted the submissions and said, why are they removing her to China if the Immigration and Refugee Board says there's no evidence that she's a Chinese national? Simple question. Should she not be considered to have a risk to her life to all countries that persecute Falun Gong practitioners? That was my basis of my PRAR. And guess what? It was refused. And then they told us to fill in a new application for a travel document. I said, what happened to the last one? And this officer, who was from Vancouver, said, "None of your business." Well, Roy doesn't take kindly to being spoken like that. So I said, "Oh, it's quite hot in here. Come on, let's go outside here and do it." So I went outside, and I'm seeing different officers that I used to work with, and I'm talking to them, and see other consultants, and I'm talking to them. She's filling this paper out, and I'd given her a ride. And 45 minutes later, she's still sitting there staring at this application for a travel document. And I went over to her, I said, "Hurry up, fill this out, sign the damn thing, let's get the hell out of here." And she said, "I got a question. Sign it, let's get out of here. Ask the question outside." She signed it, I handed it in, we got outside, and she said, "Okay, I have a big question. What happens if my name's not Huey Chen?" You came to Canada, in Vancouver supposedly, made an inland refugee claim, transferred it to Toronto, went to the refugee board, claimed that you're Huey Chen, lost, hired a different lawyer, went to the federal court, claimed you're Huey Chen, lost, hired me, told me that you're Huey Chen, and now you lost. Get that away from me. About 2 weeks later, I got a call when I was going to a poker tournament on a Friday night at 5:30 saying they need the submissions for my submissions for the PRAR. And I said, "Why?" "Oh, we're going to federal court." I said, "Well, I don't have a release from your new client." And that's it. So I hung up on them, and they then sent me a release, called me back, and I said to the lawyer, I said, "I want to talk to the lawyer." And I got the lawyer on the phone, and the lawyer said to me, "We need this right away." I said, "Well, I'm going to the poker tournament, and if I get done in time, if I lose, I might head back to the office and send it to you. But it's on the office computer, and I can't access it from home." I said, "Do you know that you're going to federal court for this person, and do you know that her name is not Huey Chen?" She says, "Yeah, I know." I said, "So why are you doing it?" "Business." Okay? That is the type of people that you're dealing with. Okay? There are people that will do anything for money. That lawyer is now an immigration specialist and member of the Law Society of Ontario. Now, back to the Minister's Delegate Review, okay? Because we got to get through everything. And it's only 1 o'clock, my God. Okay, so we're going to show you a Minister's Delegate Review, okay? So this one is really good. And he was a former client of mine who was detained, who I got out of detention. Got to change the screen again. Got to change. Okay, he was convicted in 2015 of trafficking Schedule I substance, which was cocaine. He got 36 days in jail and 2 months mandatory probation. 24 months probation and mandatory weapons prohibition. Okay? Trafficking in cocaine, and he got 36 days in jail. Okay, so let's go down here. This is an actual case, and I have permission to use this guy's name in writing if anybody's got a question here, if I forgot to stroke something out. So the accused is a resident of Milton, Ontario, and in 2014, the Halton drugs and gang people began an investigation in January of 2014. Now, that's a key note. January of 2014, they start investigating him. Okay, and that they've received information that he is actively trafficking cocaine. The investigation determined that where he was working, he doesn't work there anymore, and the company doesn't exist there anymore, and that he was trafficking of a controlled substance, cocaine. Now, on the 17th of April 2014, Halton Police conducted surveillance on his place of employment, were a Porsche with license plate, whatever, belonging to the accused. Now, here's a guy accused of selling drugs that drives a Porsche. I want a Porsche. And shortly after 4:36 in the afternoon, a gray BMW with license plate, whatever, entered and parked in front of the business. At 4:36, the accused attended the Porsche for a brief moment and then entered the BMW's passenger seat at 4:37. The accused then exited at 4:42. So he sat in the BMW for 5 minutes, right? Now, if you're selling somebody cocaine and they're driving up to pick up the cocaine, why would you sit inside the car? Why wouldn't you just go to the driver's window, take your money, and give them the goddamn drugs and get the hell up back into work? Makes sense, right? Well, he sat there for 5 minutes. The accused then what happened was the driver, when he left of the BMW, was stopped and a bag of cocaine was recovered, and he admitted to purchasing the cocaine ball, whatever the size of a ball is. It must be smaller than a ping pong ball, from my client for $200. Now, I don't know about you, but cocaine, it's a very expensive drug, is it not? So $200 of cocaine can't be a hell of a lot. So the accused was arrested outside of this company. Search warrants were granted for his house, his car, everything else, and no additional cocaine was discovered. So here's the response from my client, which I did not do the minister's delegate review. Subject details, the circumstances of events as follows. A friend of mine left my work and got pulled over and arrested for possession of cocaine. He told the cops I sold it to him. They got a warrant for my house, work, and cars. Absolutely nothing was found. I was going to take it to trial, but I was told by the Crown that if I lose the case, I would have to serve 6 months dead time. This would mean I would lose my job and be forced to sell my house, so I pleaded guilty. So he pleaded guilty. Think about that for a second. Okay? Here's the situation. He said, she said, or he said, he said. Somebody accuses you of selling them drugs, and they find no drugs on you. They don't find $200 on you, but they charge you. So now, why would the cops charge him? If you're going to appeal, okay, and this is like a notice to appear, okay, for an appeal of a different criminal. And criminals are really good. They're really good business, okay? Don't shy away from criminals, even if they're convicted, okay? So, if the person, let me see what this is here. Okay, gotta change this. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So here's the referral under section 44.2. So basically all I've done here is deleted the guy's name here, okay? And that's the referral for someone at the IAD to do the thing. And this is the report under section 44.1 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. So basically, this is what they're going to argue, that you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt at the admissibility hearing, which you can charge $3,500, $4,000 for, which takes, in this type of case, 10 minutes. But you have to submit disclosure documents, submissions. And 1 second here. This side thing keeps popping up. Okay, so now, all they're going to say is that he is not a Canadian citizen, is a permanent resident of Canada, has been granted whenever he got granted that in Mississauga, was convicted of, in court in Milton, a possession for the purpose of trafficking to wit cocaine, and found to describe Section 1 of the Controlled Drugs Act. This is an indictable offense liable to a term of imprisonment not to exceed life. Okay, so now we're going to show you his actual conviction certificate. And I sure hope that my techie guy deleted the names here. I don't know if he did. Yeah, he did. So anyways, down here at the bottom, here's his conviction date, December 16th, 2004. Now, Phil, how come I can't make that bigger? Can I make that bigger?
What exactly?
I want to make it full page.
The screen that you're looking at?
This, can I make that bigger? So anyways, look at down here. He got 24 months probation and 36 days intermittent.
What exactly?
What is it? It's to there. I want to get up to there and down to there.
No, because it's 16.9. The only way to do that is to get rid of the text box here.
No, don't worry. Don't get rid of that. Okay. So anyways, here's a guy selling cocaine, gets 36 days intermittent and 150 community hours service type of thing, and victim surcharge $200. And he time to pay, he got 30 days. I'm going to ask yourself a question. Where do you think he spent his time? His 36 days? Monday to Friday? Saturday, Sunday? Who's got the answer? Which correctional facility did he spend his time in? Come on, Cameron, you still there?
It takes them about 20 seconds to be caught up.
I'm waiting. "36 days intermittent sentence." That means it's broken up. Keyword intermittent. Where do you think he spent his incarceration? Weekends. Cameron, wrong. Weekdays, wrong. He spent it at home on weekends. He spent it at home with an ankle bracelet that they would put on Friday night after work, and they would take off Monday morning. Every weekend he was on house arrest. So that's Friday. Any time of the day is a day. Friday was a day, Saturday was a day, Sunday was a day, and Monday was a day. So that's 4 days. Divide 36 by 4. That's how many weekends he sat at home. So what is the key here with this is pleads guilty, found guilty. Pleads guilty, found guilty. Why would anybody plead guilty? House arrest, Toby, right? This text takes a little while, okay? He pleaded guilty. The reason he pleads guilty is if he gets sentenced to more than 6 months, there's no appeal to the IAD, the Immigration Appeal Division, of his removal order. Now, it's on a balance of probabilities. All they gotta do is, scrolling back up here, is prove this information. That's all they gotta do. All they gotta do is prove that he's not a Canadian citizen, that he is a permanent resident, and that he was convicted of selling cocaine, trafficking. So how are you going to win at the admissibility hearing? Now, let's go back to the $2.5 million seized case, where the living caregiver was in her employer's factory with the employer's mother, who was 80 years of age. They were going Christmas shopping, and they had stopped in the factory. There was one lady there with the same name. That's what there was. One lady with the same name who was an employee, so there was a time card. So they said, well, you're an Ethel, and this person's an Ethel, you've got to be guilty. Well, that's not necessary. They didn't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt that she was working. They had no evidence. They had no evidence. They didn't have her seen doing anything, lifting anything, working the cash register, anything. They saw nothing. They just saw a woman in stilettos with a short skirt. Guess what? That doesn't mean that you're working. So now, here's the situation. What are you going to use to prove that this guy, who's now going to appeal his removal order, and you're being paid $6,000, what are you going to do to show that he is a changed boy? Because he's already pleaded guilty. What are you going to do? Well, one of the things I do is I get almost everybody to join the Oak Ridge Trail Association. Anybody that is out walking in the woods and caring about Ontario's environment and keeping it beautiful and everything else, they're nice people. So that's the key. That's what I do. No, he did it at home. Petty Trust Immigration Consulting. He did it at home. Okay? That's what he did. Okay? So here's the situation. If the person is religious or not, a picture is worth 1,000 words. What you need to do is submit a whole bunch of pictures that the individual is a good person. Lindsay, sorry, I can't remember everybody's name. I've got so many people on this text here, it's unbelievable. If I remember correctly, if conviction is received as a result of a plea bargain, no trial can be ordered by provincial court. Not really. Okay, so there are two things that you can get away with and still be convicted: an absolute discharge and a conditional discharge. You can be found guilty, and if you're guilty of a conditional discharge and an absolute discharge, but they're not convictions according to the Immigration Act. Okay? But how are you going to... You got to understand something. Here's a guy who's just been arrested, and he's got a choice to make. Okay? Go to trial and have his friend stand up there and say, he sold it to me, he forced it on me, he told me he wanted me to try it, and make your client out to be a bad guy. Or when the Crown walks up to you and says, okay, I would consider a less sentence if you gave us a name of somebody that you know does drugs in Halton region. Can I get it in writing? Sure, here's your writing. Boom, gone. You're still convicted. And all immigration gives a damn about is that you were convicted. Okay? They don't care how you got convicted, whether it's a plea bargain or not. It's gone. I mean, taking the plea bargain was with regards to immigration consequences. Okay, I remember correctly, if conviction is received as a result of a plea bargain, retrial can be ordered by the... you can... They can take you back to court, okay? Or you can fight it again and appeal it to a higher court. And, the only ones that are making money there are the lawyers. We're not making the money there, okay? With regards. That's a good point, okay? That's the key issue there, okay? So here's the situation. We got the person out of detention. We've reported for CBSA interviews 3 or 4 or 5 times. That's $1,000 for detention. That's $3,000. We got a PRAR. That's another $1,000. That's $5,000 approximately. Now we got an MDR. Okay, that's 500 or whatever. And now we're going for the full appeal. Well, we did the admissibility hearing. We charged them 3,500, and we knew that we couldn't do anything, but we argued and ranted and raved for a little while. So the guy's proud of us. And then we're up to 6,000. So we're about $20,000 for one client right now. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what happens next. Boom. Okay. Here's a notice to report. Okay. So basically, he's being told to come down to 74 Victoria Street, right? Hearing group, whatever, April 14th. Well, when you go there, you're going to get, before you go there, you're going to get this. Now, there's no way I could have did all this, okay? So this is the Minister's Council's submission, okay? Now, what it is, where's the camera? Sorry. Boom. That's basically 19 pages, 29 pages of everything about him. His landing record, what happened at his admissibility hearing, the criminal code conviction, etc., etc., etc. That's theirs. You're going to submit a whole bunch of pictures showing that he's got a lovely wife. He was there when his young son was born, and his stepdaughter is such a good student, and they go out for walks in the woods. They're environmentalists. They go to church. They got a lot of affidavits from people saying that they're great people, and you charge for each affidavit. You're only supposed to charge $40 per affidavit, but yeah. You do the affidavit, so you got to charge for actually creating the affidavit. So here's what happens now. You've submitted all that. So you're going to the hearing now. In that case, was it necessary for him to be represented at the admissibility hearing? No. It's not necessarily for anybody to represent anybody at a detention review. People get out without a counsel. Okay? It's not necessary to take somebody with you to the removals unit. Giri Maman of Maman Sandalik Kingwell has said, don't ever go to a CBSA interview by yourself. Go there, and if they tell you you got to get a ticket, start asking questions. How much time do I have to sell my truck? What size? How many suitcases can I have? Pink suitcases are okay, or whatever. Ask all kinds of questions so it appears that you're going to go. And then if you go underground, you go underground. You just can't tell your client to go underground. You can tell your client option A, B, and C. And people have done C and gone underground and still been successful. But I can't legally tell you to do that. It's a bad thing. Don't do that. And then if they choose to do that, you're basically covered. Okay? You can't tell people to break the law. That's not your job. You can tell them other people have this. Toby, I was just in a similar situation 2 weeks ago for an admissibility hearing. Laugh out loud. Yeah, okay. I have won admissibility hearings. There is a lawyer named Robert Gertler in Toronto who, when I started about 35 years ago, he was across the street from me, and I was having a beer every afternoon with another consultant. And then at 5 o'clock, we would go into our office, and all of a sudden everybody would show up, and he's leaving, and he's had no clients all day long, and he sees all these people coming in. Well, I win admissibility hearings, okay? I get paid to go to admissibility hearings, okay? The best thing for an admissibility hearing is challenging their evidence against your client. You don't try to prove that your client isn't on a balance of probabilities violated the act. You want to destroy their evidence. You can destroy their evidence and cause them a nightmare. I have taken some consultants with me to one particular admissibility hearing where it was 7 sittings. And the only reason I wanted to fight this allegation was because they had called an RCMP expert witness, and the RCMP officer that had arrested my client had been fired for tampering with the drug supplies and bringing a prostitute into where they keep the drugs, and also beating the living crap out of the prostitute in Slovakia or Slovenia somewhere. It's all in the newspapers. And the RCMP, every so often, because I'm rather vocal, I'm not shy, have come to my office and tried to entrap me. The last time they tried to entrap me, they claimed that they crossed into the United States when they were in Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island's an island. No border with the United States. Then he says, no, must have been Nova Scotia. And I said, Nova Scotia has no border with the United States. And it was all a scam. They was thinking that I was going to create false documents for my Chinese clients. Anyways, and if they think that, then I can make a phone call and get an interpreter on the phone in a second. So anyways, I mean, since the conviction is already there, would it be less admissible? You're going there to hold his hand, Toby. You're going there to hold his hand. Your time is worth money, okay? You're going there to hold his hand. You may be going there and asking for an adjournment because they're married and you need time to kill so that the marriage application is going to be approved. Okay? He's already convicted. Okay? So you don't want him removed. You want to delay. So you go in and claim that, we never received the record because they mail it by regular mail. Okay? And we don't have it. But we're here because we got that letter, but we didn't get the record. And I've called. I've asked for the record. And they only have to provide it 10 days in advance, not the 20 days for the refugee board. So at the admissibility hearing, there are ways to delay the process. Okay? It's kind of bad to take money from a client that you can't help. And this guy's not stupid. Okay? He's got a couple degrees. His wife's very smart. So he made a mistake on the information when he was interviewed. Okay? Whoops. No. Basically, hang on a second here. Which one is that? No. 1 second. Now, this is a gift, okay? Anytime somebody at CBSA sends you additional information at the last minute before the appeal, read everything. Now, we know that this guy owned a Porsche. And he was arrested for trafficking in cocaine. So anybody that traffics in cocaine that own a Porsche, that's like putting a target on your head. Okay? Now, if you're that stupid to be selling drugs, you should buy an old clunker when you're selling drugs. Nobody's going to pay attention to it. Drive around with a Porsche, brum, 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 they're going to get you. But the Minister's Council sent me this at the last minute. Now, don't forget, this is in 2016. Now, can you see the date, how old the Porsche was? How old was the Porsche? Come on, people. Cameron's asked a question. How can you help your client after receiving a deportation order from a disability hearing based on serious criminal? You appeal it! You appeal it! The guy says, I wasn't really guilty. I pleaded guilty so that I wouldn't have to be deported, and I could appeal it. He wants due process. That's how. You prove that he's a nice guy, okay? 14 years. He got 36 days. Intermittent sentence. Oh, the Porsche, yes. The Porsche is 14 years old. Thank you. I'm sorry. Cameron and Toby, thank you. I'm sorry. The Porsche is a 14-year-old piece of crap. Okay? And that's what he told me. And I said, prove it. He said, I can't prove it. Okay? If you can't prove something, you got a problem. Because you go to the appeal and you say the Porsche was 14 years old. His wife comes in, you're going to call his wife, right, to testify. And the wife comes in and says, yeah, it's a 14-year-old Porsche. And it belonged to my mother, right? And that was our second car. Okay? But, okay. So basically, what you're trying to prove is that he's a victim, okay? The cops had bad information. So if you are by the drugs and gang of Halton Police, you're being investigated since January, February, March, until the middle of April, and that's all they get? They got nothing. They got nothing. They got some guy caught with drugs who thought, okay, I'll get a lesser sentence if I rat out my friend. And that's exactly what happened. And he never sold him anything. So you have to create a scenario. Okay? April 14th. What happens on April 14th every year? Come on, April 14th. What's the weather like? April showers bring spring flowers. Guess when the appeal was? April. Guess what that day was like? It was windy. It was rainy. Sometimes the rain was coming sideways. It was terrible weather. Okay? And everybody had to come into the Immigration Appeal Division from outside that weather. Okay? And they knew what it was. Or if they went into an underground parking and came up through, well, maybe they went and got a coffee. But they knew what that damn weather was because they got in their car from their house. They knew what the weather was like. So here was the scenario. We got this nice guy, good father. He complied with his previous deportation order, stay of removal. Okay? So what we did this time was we came up with a scenario, because it was the truth, why he got into the other guy's car and sat there for 5 minutes. No drug deal is going to take 5 minutes because you're afraid of being arrested during the drug deal. Any goddamn criminal knows that. You want the drugs, you know it. Now, anybody seen Breaking Bad? See how quickly those drug deals go down? Breaking Bad, right? Kid comes up to the car window, puts in some money, takes out some drugs. That's it. Boom, done. Any idiot who watches TV knows that's how drug deals go down. They don't take 5 minutes sitting in a car. So, what's this guy do? He smokes. One of the few people that smokes. So he went into his car, took out his cigarettes, went around, sat in the other guy's car, chit-chatted for a while for somebody he knew a long time ago, and had a cigarette. Put the cigarette out in the guy's ashtray, got out of the car, went back into work. They searched his work, they searched his car, they searched his home, found no drug residue, found no drug money, found no weigh scales, found nothing. He wasn't guilty, but he pled guilty because he didn't want to risk 6 months of dead time. He's in front of a Crown attorney, right? And the Crown says either you plead or you're going to spend 6 months of dead time, because you've got nobody who's going to bail you out. You understand that? You're from Panama. We're going to put you back in there next to the Panama Canal and all those mosquitoes down there. And he didn't want to go back. His life is here for many years. Now, he got in trouble before, but he knew enough that if he got a small sentence, then he could win on an appeal. So what do? You call Roy. You guys need to do the same work, because no ghost consultant can take away this business from you. Now, if you know anything about the amount of appeals, you need to go to IRB statistics and search. There's $900 million worth of business in the tribunal business, but ICCRC never taught you anything. Now, we're going to get to that in a second. Hang on, what time we got here? I got a half an hour to go here, so just a second. We're going to come out of this one.
If you'd like, I can put your phone number up on the screen.
Yeah, can you do that?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to put my phone number, the office phone number, up on the screen somewhere. I don't know where we're going to do it.
292?
Yeah. Hang on. Which way do I got to go?
It's all good. Okay.
I want to show them something. I got one more piece of paper to show them.
No problem.
Okay, that's my office number. Okay.
They don't see it just yet, but it'll be up in a second. Select color, cancel. Select font, size 72. Okay. Where is it? Then we want to increase it. Let's put it up in the middle. Go back over here. Select the.
Oh my God, it's hot in here. I'm gonna open that door.
I know. Okay.
Okay. So.
Quick last thing.
Phil, I can do it on a document and save it on the desktop.
There you go. It's on desktop.
Okay, so that's my phone number. But now I want to talk to you about another issue. Is that, one second here, Phil? Okay.
Yep. What's up?
If your client gets arrested, okay, before the minister's delegate review, get a hold of that damn client. And if he's never made a refugee claim, ask him, are you afraid to go back to your country? Yeah. Say refugee, refugee, refugee. And your client, the whole process stops. The second he makes a refugee claim, they're going to release him. Because the IRB, it takes a long time. Oh, good. Okay, that's my phone number there. Okay, do they see the text?
Yes, they do.
Okay. That's my phone number. That's what we're going to use for the open mic. But I want to show you something now. Okay? A long time ago, right after the Standing Committee Citizenship and Immigration, Vicky, who I've never met, informed me that there was this Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. Am I going to Ottawa? I said, I don't want to waste my time going to talk to those idiots. And then I'm outside on the deck, and Raj Sharma of Sharma something in Calgary calls me. He's on our... Toby knows him from Twitter. I know him from Twitter. Vicky knows him. Other ones know him. He's not bad. He sent me business. I sent him business. And I don't ask for referral fees, and I don't give referral fees to other lawyers. Okay? They don't need them. Okay? So he calls me up and suggests that he's going there and he should recommend to the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration a two-tier system. One for consultants who do tribunal business, and ones who fill in forms. Now, some people who fill in forms can make 5 times what I make, because they're sitting over in India filling in a study permit application. Now, anybody can fill in any application they want, any foreigner, as long as they don't charge a fee. They're not violating Canadian law. And if they're over there, who cares? There's nothing you can do about it, because they're complying with the law of that country, whether it be India, Pakistan, Booga Booga Land, or whatever else. Okay? What has bothered me for about 11 or 12 years, even before regulation, I was practicing, I was ethical. There was a group of KPIC type people. Well, in those days it was ACE. What if your client makes a refugee claim at the port of entry, then withdraws due to misunderstanding the law? Well, anybody who represents themselves is an idiot, Cameron. If your client made a refugee claim and then withdraws it, okay, that's a problem. We'll get to that in a second. Forgot where we were. Yeah, so they can make an asylum claim, okay? They get them to make the asylum claim while they're still in detention, they will be released. Period. They're getting out, okay? Because the detention will take too long. So, in other words, to save costs, they release them, okay? And it's highly unlikely they make them ever report. So they get released on terms and conditions, their own signature, okay? That they have to apply for a work permit, they have to stay, keep themselves in status type of thing. Now, back to Cameron's question. What if your client makes a refugee claim at the port of entry, then withdraws due to misunderstanding of the law? Any client that represents themselves has a fool for a client. Fool for themselves. They're an idiot. You go to the IAD for a spousal appeal and you represent yourself. You can't ask yourself questions. If you're the appellant, you can't ask yourself a question. You know, how does your wife get to and from work? Oh, she does this and she does that, and she takes a Ferrari or whatever. Stupid. Okay, you can't do that. Now, what I want to do is get back to the tribunal business. Now, I don't know if I've covered everything, but there's CBSA interviews, there's PRARs, there's admissibility hearings, ministers' delegate reviews, there's appeals to the IAD, there's spousal sponsorships from within and outside Canada based on their circumstances, and there's also ARCs and other things. Hang on a second here. Yeah, okay, fine. Hang on. Okay, I don't know who this is. Got a lot of messages here. Just a second here. Someone's pinging the limit daily out of me. Okay. CIC info address. I just signed up for your event. Pretty sure you don't make it kill me if it's okay. CIC info address for. Did you send this link to Ryan Dean?
I believe I did. Yes, I did. He called earlier and I sent it to him.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, Ryan Dean, you there? Okay. So, here's what I want to post. When I heard Robert Cooley, the lead investigator of ICCRC, saying, when he was asked how many people have been suspended or revoked by ICCRC, he says, I don't really know. When I was an RCMP officer and I charged somebody and they went to court, I never, ever, ever followed up to find out whether they were convicted or not. You've charged somebody with a vicious assault on a little old lady and you don't follow up to see if they were convicted? I just couldn't believe that. Then there was a little lady who was a board member of ICCRC, the youngest member of ICCRC, she said at the standing meeting. I'm sure all these lawyers who are politicians really like that. And she was asked the same question. How many people were suspended or revoked by ICCRC? And her reply was, I have no idea, but I know there's a complaint process. I went ballistic. So I blogged and I said, the problem with ICCRC, dumb answers. Well, the very first CEO of ICCRC... Oh, so did I show you the bondsperson sheet? Yeah, I did. Hang on. Very first person of ICCRC wrote me back and said the following. I got to get that up now. Okay, this is Mr. Phil Mooney. And we go down to number 6 here. And he says, hopefully you can all see this. Phil, how do I make this larger? Hang on. See if I can get it larger. Well, let me sign out of here just a second, and then I'll try to get it larger. Phil,
Yes.
how do I get this larger?
Control and scroll. I'll do it for you. Here we go. You click on this window, hit Control, and you scroll.
Okay, good.
Oh, so you're not looking at it right now.
Yeah, I know. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, as you know, this is Phil Mooney. As you know, in ICCRC 7, we've simply accepted the already established educational guideline programs that have been set by 7. Okay, now this is the point that really got me. We could not penalize hundreds of students who were in the middle of their school year. So, because ICCRC only cared about money and more consultancy students, nobody, not one educational approved provider, was required to teach tribunal business. Not one. So all consultants are missing out that joined after CSIC. All of them missed out on $900 million worth of business. And I'm voting no. But that's up to you, whatever you want to do. Do we have any questions? Because I'm tired. So here's the other point that Mr. Mooney says. The vast majority of immigration consultants do not do any detention reviews or any tribunal work at all. No consultant is allowed to practice in any area of immigration for which they are not competent. Okay? So why does that mean that you're not allowed to practice in any area that you're not competent, but you passed the full skills exam and you took the course, so why would you not be allowed to do everything that anybody else can do? Do you understand? Doesn't make sense to me. I'm not happy with that. Now, CPD providers, how many times can you take a course on how to fill in a visitor extension? How many times can you watch a video on how to apply for a temporary work permit, how to extend a temporary work permit, how to submit a spousal sponsorship application, how to fill out this application or that application, or this definition of the act when you can read the guide of the actual application. So simple things like humanitarian compassionate applications, which can also be from detention, are rather lucrative. I charge $5,000. Okay, it takes me about 3 months to do a proper H&C. I know after 2 minutes of talking to the client whether or not there's any chance. How do new consultants find clients? Damn good question. In the olden days, 30 years ago, everything was on ethnic newspapers. There was no internet. Okay? Well, there was internet, but not really. Okay? So you advertise in ethnic newspapers. Now, my biggest beef with that is, are you telling the truth? Okay? We're going to talk about Robin Jones a little bit later and other consultants who are going to have their toes clipped or fingernails clipped by CICC when it gets up and running. Misleading advertisements or false advertisements is the bad thing. Okay? You can say a lot of things, but the biggest problem with our regulator is all they care about is that their logo and your name is in the promotion. That's all they care about. You can say whatever the hell you want. You can call yourself the sexiest man alive, which I am, and get away with it. And you can promise fast immigration and get away with it. You can do whatever you want. So if you want to find clients, you need to be confident. You need to be able to sell yourself. Now, unfortunately, the vast majority of immigration consultants get into this business to fleece their own ethnic group, to make money from their own ethnic group. And here's what happens. Everything starts going wrong, so good, so good, so good, so good. And then you get that one client who gets really pissed off at you and blabs to the whole community everything about you, everything negative about you. Oh, okay. Any others? Okay.
Right.
We got to...
How do you find new clients still?
Okay, so I know. I'm working on finding the clients. Okay? So here's the situation. No, because somebody else asked a question, which I really want to get to. I'm enjoying this. Hopefully you guys are. So here's the situation. If you want to find clients, what you do is you find a client, one client, in one ethnic community, okay? And you work your ass off to save that client. You study and you read, you ask some senior citizen like me for help, and I'll answer you. Plain and simple. I'll answer any question of any consultant who asks me. I will not join the peer group or the listserv because you know why? David LeBlanc won't let me on the listserv. He won't let me join. Even though if you look at my reviews on Google Maps, CV Immigration, he gives me glowing reviews for my seminars. Okay? Because people learn from me. I am losing money by teaching you people. No. You're going to have to get your own backbone and get up and figure out what to do. Okay? How to do it. Sooner or later, this miracle client is going to walk into your office. Recently, this lady walked into my office because she heard about me from somebody else. And that's normally how it happens. What happened was, she walked into my office many years ago, and she said, can I come to your office? Can I come to your office? I got a problem. This lawyer's overcharged me. This lawyer's doing this. This lawyer's doing that. This lawyer's doing this. And this was right after regulation happened with CSIC. John Ryan had his good buddy, who is also a member, Keith Frank. And Keith Frank was charging this lady an additional $1,500 to update the file. And she said, the lawyer said this, the lawyer said, I said, I can't help you, call the Law Society. Then she came to the office and she said, this lawyer, Keith Frank. And I said, I'll help you for free. What he was doing, he hadn't submitted the spousal sponsorship application until after her husband had died. So I went to bat for her and I kept her in the country, and she sent me about 20 people. Another one more recently is a situation where Dunstan Monroe was charging a lady who had been found to be a convention refugee, protected person, for 7 years, every month, $200, because he was applying for a passport to her country where she could not go to because she's afraid of that country for well-founded reasons. And he was charging her every month, $200. And she was paying this for 7 years. So you figure that's a lot of money. $2,400 for a lady that is cleaning houses for a living? This is what she's doing? Okay. So I did her for free. Okay? And that lady sent me several so far already. All you got to do is find one that you believe, even a spousal sponsorship, that you believe is in a real marriage. And then what you do is you go through and spend the time to get sure of the best photographs of everything. You write a really short, brief, 1 page and a quarter covering letter extolling why you like this, and then what you do is you get them to bring in some of their friends to sign an affidavit with ID and everything else. You submit it, the person gets through real quick, boom, you got another customer. You got another customer. 1 customer gets you 2 customers. 2 customers get you 4. 4 customers get you 8. 8 customers get you 16. So on, so on, so on. Like that old shampoo commercial. Next question, Richard Luce. Besides your great CBD, where else should RCICs that want to do tribunal detention work look for information? Any other sources of information regarding detention? Who else can we speak with? Okay, I can give you 3 or 4 senior members who will take you to appeals. Okay? I am co-counsel on September 5th, Richard, for a consultant that I have never seen the record and I've never seen the client yet. Okay? And I got to get a hold of that person. Vietnamese client. If you want to come, I'll be there September 5th. That's one way. The other way is my next hearing is October 2nd. Okay? And that'll be a really good one if you want to come and see some fireworks. Okay? That would be a good one to come to. Just send me an email before October. Yeah, Cameron, you can come with me too. I don't care. I've taken Ian Canzano. I've taken Carl. I've taken Moya Tran to some events. I've probably taken 20 consultants or detention review, yeah. I don't get that many detention reviews anymore. Oh, let's talk about detention reviews. Smedley Prescott. Charged 2 of my clients $5,000 each to represent them at a detention review. They got pulled over because they were in the back seat and the taillight was broken. Another couple was driving. The lady, who is Chinese Malay, started crying, and the police officer asked for identity and status documents for them. He had no right. And of course, they're visible minorities, Chinese. And what happened was they got locked up. I got he got them out of detention, and I won their H&C application. Okay, they came back to me. They said they couldn't afford to pay me $5,000, but they were willing to give me $2,000 and $5,000 when they won. And I knew damn well that, one is from Malaysia, one is from China, and they have a kid, 8-year-old kid. It's not an anchor baby, okay? So I'm going to win this. So I said, yeah, okay, no problem. And when we won, they gave me more than 5, okay? But here's the situation. Smedley Prescott was doing probably 3 or 4 or more detention reviews a week. And then he was at 6900 Airport Road, the investigations bond reporting place, doing CBSA interviews. Anytime I got there, he was there. I saw him down at the IAD a few times and at the IRB. Now, our regulatory body didn't do anything about Smedley Prescott, who was caught twice and convicted twice for smuggling people into the United States. And God is in control is on the back of his card. So he was called before the IRB because they claimed he was incompetent. And he never showed. He never submitted any documents. He booked off sick the first time. The second time, they wouldn't give him another extension. And they stripped him of his status for being incompetent. Only then did ICCRC suspend him from doing cases at the IRB. Now, I don't know exactly why he was incompetent. But right after this, I did a detention review at the Maplehurst Detention Center. I go out there, and I see members that I've known for years and some that I worked with who got promoted to becoming a immigration division member. They were officers at that time. And they said, "Oh, did you see about Smedley? You see about Smedley?" Yeah. And I said, what the hell? What was this all about? And what happened was, I'm sorry, I got this thing on. What got me was, what was the allegations? What were the allegations? What incompetence was there? Why did the IRB investigate him and not ICCRC? Nothing makes sense. And they said, well, he was doing a lot of detention reviews. And I said, where the hell do you think he got his clients? I ran that holding center. I hired most of those security guards, the old ones. And I will not pay a security guard to refer a client to me. There's no way. How the hell is he getting all those clients? It's not by handing out his cards. There's no way. How was he getting it? Now, here's the problem. When you're making big bucks, okay, you got to keep making the big bucks because you got this lifestyle now. You got to make more and more and more and more and more money until all of a sudden it goes poof. Now, the other one that ICCRC didn't really do anything about is Artem Dubček. Stole $2 million from people in his own community, claiming that he needed the money to get his clients out of detention. He had the bonds person, but they didn't have any money, and And the Law Society of Ontario kicked him out, and ICCRC fined him $2,000. But now they're going after him. So I don't know what more to say. You want to come to a detention review? You want to come to a hearing? Send me an email. Nothing's happening until September 5th. Recommend that you come. Follow-up question. This is a politician, this Richard Luce. Is it better to be retained by a client that's detained prior to the initial IRB interview within 48 hours, or it does not really matter? you can't get retained after the detention review. If he doesn't get out the first time, it's more difficult to get him out at the 7th day review. You don't get him out on the 7th day review, so you had 1 kick of the can, 2 kicks of the can, and then the next one's a month. It gets really difficult, unless there's outstanding reason. Now, there is a guy, there's a really good lawyer, I can't think of what his name is. There's a guy that was been in the country for 21 years. He can't read and write. He has a severe stutter. And the first detention review, I didn't get him out. The 7th day detention review, I got him out. I kept him here for 2.5 years. And now some lawyers taking it over, going to federal court over the fact that he was ordered before, because he couldn't read and write. He didn't know what he was signing, right? He couldn't answer the questions because of his stuttering ability. How could they order him? Okay? So, it's got to be fair. The justice system has to be fair. So I think that lawyer is going to win. He's really smart. Okay? What time we got here now?
5 to 2.
Okay, that's 2 hours. I don't know if this is going to work, but how do I get my number? Okay, on the screen.
Oh, you can go back to the other menu where I can just put it up again real quick. Here, I'll type it in chat.
No, listen, I'll do it this way. I'll just do it this way. I'll do it in Word.
That if you switch, it's already. If you switch screens, it's already up there.
Switch screens.
Go from your face to the desktop. It's already up there.
Okay. Here's the situation. I'm voting no. I'm voting no because if you're following me on LinkedIn, you're seeing an article every single day. ICCRC has failed. ICCRC should have taught everybody. Don't say goodbye, Richard Luce. I want your opinion. ICCRC should have taught everybody about the tribunal business. They should have stopped chasing after more and more consultants. So now they have probably 80% of the consultants only dabble in immigration. They're real estate guys, so that when some foreigner hires them, they can say, do this, or they're doing study permits, or they're not really immigration consultants. They're only dabbling in the business. They have no clients. They don't know how to find clients. No offense to you, Cameron, but you can do better. You've got to try harder. You got to be more confident. And, it's a little bit of BS involved when you're meeting with clients. Now, I would really like to open up this mic. So can somebody call me? Because I want to hear their opinion. And I want you to hear their opinion. Not just mine. I'm tired of talking. Call! Who's voting yes? Who's voting no? Our first caller. Hi, what's your name?
Ryan Dean.
Ryan Dean. Are you voting yes or no, Ryan Dean?
I am voting no, for sure.
Give me 2 reasons.
I'll give you a whole bunch of reasons.
No, we can't have a whole bunch of reasons. We can't tie up the phone. We got another caller. 2 reasons. We'll get back to you.
One of the reasons are all your LinkedIn. All your LinkedIn posts are terrific, and I think you pretty well covered it. And anyone else who followed Roy's LinkedIn's, he has really covered it. So I'll summarize it that way. Another way
Thank you.
All director appointments. And I'll just say this too, Roy. I learned more in your 2-hour seminar here than I did all the other CPD ICCRC sponsored classes in 7 years. Thanks a lot.
Yes, okay. Ryan, just want to explain something to you. David LeBlanc said the same thing, and he posted a review after my last seminar, and then he wouldn't let me connect to the listserv because I have a lot of knowledge about some of the crooked goings on, just like you do. Okay? Looking for another caller. Thank you, Ryan Dean. Who's Anish Ashri voting no? Can he call? Or do you want me to call him? What's your phone number? I'll call you. It's free for me to call you. Hang on. Caller number 2. Who are you? Hello.
Hello.
Is this Vicky?
This is. How's it going, Roy?
I was just going to call you. I was looking up your number. Okay.
All right.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so what's your opinion? Should we continue with ICCRC?
No, we definitely should not.
Why? Give me 2 reasons.
Well, I'll tell you why. This is the very first time. This is the very first time we've ever had the opportunity to have a vote.
Oh, so we're actively becoming self-regulated for the first time.
For the first time ever, someone is asking us if we're okay with everything that CSIC and ICCRC has done to us. Either we are going to say yes, we agree with them and we want them to keep going, and we accept responsibility for everything they've done to us because it was our fault, we weren't properly regulated because they didn't have enough power over us, or we're going to say no, they're a bunch of corrupt motherfuckers.
Well, I'm not happy that there's another 4,000 people, like some people today, who are saying, how do you find clients? I feel sorry for those people. I feel really sorry for those people. Because if they would have learned tribunals, or people like me could earn CPD credit to take them to a damn appeal, which the Law Society of Ontario allows, and if you're mentored by a senior member, you would get CPD credit, but ICCRC won't allow that. You know why? Because there's money to be made by Kay Pickett on media, etc., etc.
Okay. The point I have that I just can't understand with this vote is KPIC, ICCRC are promising to increase the amount of members. They want to have 10,000 members plus. Why would we vote for that? Why would you and I vote to have 10,000 new competitors for the market? If we were truly self-regulated, what is in our interest to do that?
Okay. Somebody called and I was going to go to the call, but I've never met you, but I like you. Okay? I like your attitude. Now, so here's the situation. I got, from the time that ICCRC was created, I got 4,500 more competitors. Now, somebody that's been around as long as me, who can say on my website, I'm a former immigration officer and I did this, that gets me more respect than what some of the newbies can get. But if you've got, what was her name? Robin what?
I forget her name.
Robin Young or something?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, I can get out of here this one in a second. She claims that she was an immigration officer at the time. Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. At the time, well, if you don't have my number now, this is a big problem. At the time that she was still in high school. On her website, Phil, on her website, she doesn't say where she worked. She worked at Vegreville because she went to Vegreville High School. Now, she didn't say what she did as an immigration officer. Now, if all you were doing was reviewing visitor extensions, you worked for immigration. If all you did was renew temporary work permits, that's it. Okay? Anish, what's your phone number? I'll call you. Oh, I lost Vicky. Vicky, you there? Philip! Oh, good. Okay, I think I lost something here.
What did you lose?
Okay, I don't know if I lost. Anybody still there?
Everything should be fine. What happened?
Oh, no, I lost everybody.
No,
I lost the phone call. I'll call Vicky back.
No, the phone's still.
Oh, here we go.
You didn't lose anybody.
Hi, you there? Hello. How can I help you?
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry, we got some feedback. Who's this?
Hi, this is Ansh or Sudhanshu.
Oh, okay, hi. So, what's you've got the open mic. What do you got to say?
I would be voting no, and there are a lot of reasons.
Where are you located?
I'm calling from Abbotsford, near Vancouver.
Oh, okay. So what do you do in Abbotsford, Vancouver? What are you doing out there? What's your main business? Is it people from India, China, whatever?
Yeah, it's mostly from India.
Okay, can you give me 2 good reasons why you're voting no?
The first being ICCRC is they're just not interested in trading members in tribal business or anything where they can ethically make money. And secondly, they're not going after anybody who's practicing illegally or unethically. What they're interested in is just taking their own membership dues and just doing nothing for the members. What
got me funny was when Smedley Prescott was found to be incompetent by the IRB, ICCRC allowed him to continue to submit applications.
Yeah, that's true. And he's still able to do that while they should have taken more serious action against these kind of practitioners.
I agree. Lots of time, though, the problems is that they hear things, or we hear things about other consultants, but we can't prove it. Okay? Yes. So Smedley Prescott was found to be incompetent by the IRB. One guy today asked me, how do you get clients? Well, there's a guy that joined at the same time as that guy. You know how he's getting clients? He's paying Smedley Prescott referral fees because he has a client base, right? Who's he's helped in the past. He can no longer help. So he sends it to a regulated consultant, and the guy who was found to be incompetent makes money. Now, is that ethical? I don't know. I'll leave that up to the next caller to answer. Okay? Do you think, honestly think, that if people like me could earn CPD credits for taking junior members to detention reviews, admissibility hearings, and appeals and asylum claims, that I should get CPD credits for that?
As per the current rules, if anybody is teaching something to the junior members, they're able to get CPD credits.
Oh my God, I just got a text here. I'm sorry. I've been told previously that I'm not allowed to say anything negative about ICCRC member, even if it's true. Yeah, that's true. I got cautioned. Yeah. I retract that last statement. Okay? But they're not a member anymore. Okay, so that's a fact. ICCRC doesn't want anybody saying anything about anybody, even if it's true. It doesn't matter. You're not allowed to tarnish the ICCRC name. We're not tarnishing the ICCRC name. We're making a decision whether we want to give them an opportunity to continue. Now, the minister will decide who is in CICC, if anybody. Okay? There might not be anybody in CICC. But, and by the way, that's the Canadian Immigration and Citizenship College, right? Now, if you want to continue the same way, that's fine. But the minister already knows what the problem is. Because if you listen to the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration, one of the biggest things was they asked the head of the complaints department, Ryan Dean will know who this guy is, how many complaints do you get a year? Well, if you look at the CIMM, it starts out by saying ICCRC gets 300 complaints a year. And some member of parliament in Toronto, who's a liberal, says, what are you talking about? I get 300 a month. Well, about consultants. 300 a month. And ICCRC only gets 300 a year? But my complaint by a CBSA officer over the signing of Chinese characters on a 5476 took 3 years for them to write me a letter saying no chance of, from a lawyer, no chance of conviction. Well, I don't know if he was a criminal lawyer, but I don't think he was an immigration lawyer. That's the other thing. They're spending more than $1 million. ICCRC is spending more than $1 million a year hiring lawyers to review complaints to see which ones they should attempt to discipline. Either we have people who are knowledgeable about tribunals, or knowledgeable about LMIAs, or knowledgeable about spousal sponsorships that review each case. Carl Marshall. In Canada, there is no tolerance for dissent. Not a truer word spoken. In Canada, there is no tolerance for dissent. Well, here's the situation as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't matter one iota if ICCRC is allowed to switch from a nonprofit to whatever, and they can apply to be part of CICC. Here's what's going to happen. This election on October 21st will probably end up with a minority government of whatever, okay? And the immigration critic for the NDP and the immigration critic for the Conservatives won't have anything to do with ICCRC. And I think that's the best. Anybody else calling? What more can I do to get the word out that you should vote no? If there's anybody on the peer group or the listserv, they should be reposting my articles. Okay, I'm exhausted. If nobody else is calling, I'm going to call it a day. Oh.
Okay, should we call it quits then?
We give them 2 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Ugh.
Okay, we're done. Thanks for coming. I enjoyed everything. What, that right there?
That's the end button. Say goodbye and click that.
Bye-bye.
Click it again. You just restarted.